I'm Deb Campbell, and our first reading begins with the second point of progressive Christianity. Seek community that is inclusive of all people, honoring differences in theological perspective, age, race, sexual orientation, gender, identity or expression, class, or ability. And the third essential for creation spirituality is the spiritual journey can be understood as a dance moving in out of four mystical paths: awe, delight, gratitude, joy, known as the via positiva, uncertainty, darkness, suffering, letting go, known as the via negativa, birthing, creativity, passion, known as the via creativa, and justice, healing, celebration, rebirth, resurrection, known as the via transformativa. And the second reading comes from James chapter 2. Siblings, your faith does not allow for favoritism. If a person wearing gold rings and fine clothes, and at the same time a poor person dressed in shabby clothes, both come to your gathering, suppose that you noticed the well-dressed one and said, "Sit right here in a place of honor," and said to the poor one, "You can stand, go sit by my footrest." Haven't you made your own distinctions? Haven't you made yourself like a corrupt official? Listen, my friends, God has always preferred the poor, yet you've treated them shamefully. Aren't the wealthy exploiting you? Aren't they the same ones who oppress others for their own gain? You are acting rightly if you fulfill the great commandment, love your neighbor as yourself. But if you show favoritism, you break that commandment. Talk and behave as those who are judged by freedom to follow this commandment. Mercy triumphs over judgment every time. Siblings, what good is it to profess faith without practicing faith? Such faith saves nothing and no one.
Siblings, please pray with me. God, that we may do the best we can despite our preferences. Amen. Hi. One of my favorite theological terms is perichoresis. Not just because it's really fun to say, but it is really fun to say. Say it with me, perichoresis. Good job, everyone. It's a word that literally breaks down into two words. Chora, a noun that means space, or the verb chorin, which means to make space, and peri, which is a prefix that means around. So the word literally means something like to make space around. But it refers to ways in which something or someone makes space for something or someone else. Theologically, this term often refers to, forgive me, the triune God, the Trinity, creator, sustainer, liberator, and seeing how God isn't just one side of that, but to see God is to see all of these things at once. It is a dance, a choreography, where all three sides are continually making space for the other. They're moving in and out and in such continual motion that you're looking at one and all three, kind of like the wings on a hummingbird. Another word for this is mutual indwelling, which is also really nice. It is all of these things because all of these God things are always moving around each other and moving around in us, making room for each other, making room for us and the divine, while still remaining distinctive. And I suspect there's a lot more of that happening in the world besides in theology. How many facets of personality do each of us carry? How many sides to us are there? I know for me, I'm a woman, I'm a daughter, I'm a wife, I'm a mama, I'm a pastor, I'm a writer, and there are many more things that I could add to this list. And while each of these things informs the other, they are all distinctive. In the same way, the third essential of creation spirituality is the dance, the moving in and out of the perichoresis of the four paths, the via positiva, which is awe and delight. And we start with that path because we come from that path. This is our state, our natural state of original blessing. It is how we were formed, and it is where we return. We also have the via negativa, the proverbial wilderness, the self-emptying. This path is about letting go, letting be. It is about a season of discomfort, one of honesty, one of wrestling, and most importantly, a season of growth. It dances in and out because without the letting go and the emptying, we don't get to appreciate awe and wonder. Without awe and wonder, we don't have courage to let go when it is time to release things that no longer serve us. We don't have the patience to sit in self-examination. Path 3 is the via creativa, a place of breakthrough and birth, where we get the honor of creation, of insight. And the final path is the via transformativa, the way of justice making and compassion. It is how we, quote, engage in transforming heartache into joy, oppression into liberation, and despair into hope. These four paths are not linear, as easy as that would make this discussion. They are intertwining. And which path we're on necessitates movement between the four, sometimes from hour to hour. They're interconnected, they inform each other, even as they remain distinctive. And it's almost to me as though path is too straight, linear a term. And we might want to instead consider these as spaghetti noodles on a plate. There are hundreds of individual noodles, and where they intersect and intertwine is not easily discernible when you're looking down at the plate. But each of these noodles is necessary to make your meal. One is not better than the other, and none exists without making space. And I think that this dance of the four paths connects us really well with that second core value of progressive Christianity, which encourages us to seek community that is inclusive of all people, honoring differences, not tolerating, honoring. Differences in theological perspective, in age, in race, in sexual orientation, gender, identity, expression, class, or ability. These four paths that dance in our lives, they're also dancing in everyone else's, which makes a big pile of noodles. In any room that we enter, we are surrounded by folks whose paths may be very different than our own. And if we're in the business of comparison, which I highly recommend against, we might view the paths of others as being better, worse, that because we're via creativa today, our birthing pains might make us morally superior to those who are dealing with the shadows. We might find it in our hearts to allow heathens, sinners, misfits to join us in community of faith. while holding an expectation that they will eventually be better because they will believe like us or walk like us or vote like us. Friends, that's dangerous. That's where we bring in the second core value. It reminds us that community that we seek is inclusive, period. Friends, every single week we say this: no matter who you are, no matter what you believe, help me. You are what? Thank you, Kathy. Too often, Christianity finds an idea that Jesus' teachings are moral mandates that might be pleasing to a theistic God who exists in heaven away from us. But instead, let's be reminded that Jesus' teachings are a path to the experiences of oneness, of sacred unity. Practicing seeking community that is varied intentionally is not a mandate, but they're lessons we learn from one another that lead us to this awakening. The Jesus path challenges us to welcome all people without imposing on them the necessity of changing their attitudes, their culture, their understanding of faith, their sexual orientation. If we were to take this a step even further, we might suggest that the established members of a community should be alert to the possibility that they are the ones who should change. We all must be ready to adapt ourselves to the people that we hope to welcome as communities grow. And this cuts to the heart of that matter, as Deb so authoritatively read in James, where the apostles telling the church their favoritism is not just uncool, but that it breaks the greatest commandment, to love our neighbors as ourselves, because we are not loving people when we are too busy judging them inferior or different. Favoritism doesn't just make us look like jerks, guys. It undergirds entire systems of oppression that can propagate just as easily inside of a community as it can out in the world. Siblings, church is a shark. When we stop moving, we die. We cannot rely on who we have been. We cannot lean on our reputation alone. There is no magical thinking that is going to keep us going. There's a community, and this community isn't just comprised of those folks who have been here for years. It's forming even now. We have 20 visitors today, by the way. Let's clap for everyone who's visiting us. That's incredible. In addition to that, we have received, that wasn't in the sermon, I didn't know you were going to be here, yay. But we have received 10 new members in the last 2 months. Yes. Y'all look around. Seriously, take a second to look around this room. A third of the people in the room, and more than that today, have shown up in the past 4 years. And a solid number of y'all, probably half, have started coming in the last year. Y'all, these beautiful, shining souls have shown up because of who we have professed to be. But they come back because of their experiences of who we are. Right now, who we are. Not who we were in 1992. Not the community that moved into this building in 2010. Not who we were before the pandemic, but who we are right now. Friends, it is so important that we continue to listen to the wisdom of those stalwarts who anchored us, who have steered Trinity, especially through the last 4 years. But it is also really important that we listen to those who have just arrived. When folks join, I ask them to fill out a questionnaire. And my favorite question that they answer is, what excites you about Trinity? They've all been published in the newsletter, but here are some highlights for y'all to hear. Quote, unique, diverse spiritual community, welcoming and inclusive home. A community that embodies love, respect, hope, and justice for all. Y'all, for whatever things might be frustrating, for whatever things might be scary or difficult, for whatever things that may have changed in ways that make us uncomfortable or angry, for however you may feel about my messages, or Ben's piano playing, or our building, this is who we are today. And this is who we are still growing into becoming more fully. Friends, this is a year of transformation. It is not a time for us to buckle into rigidity and dogma. It is not a year for us to become so concrete in who we have been that we miss the beautiful things about who we are becoming. Siblings, we seek to move beyond fear and into compassion. And that compassion has to extend to those who have been harmed by injustice, particularly in the name of God. But it also has to extend to one another. We have to extend that to ourselves as we endure changes and transitions. And we especially have to be mindful of that when it makes us feel so much better to go backwards into something that we have known. To glorify memories of a past that probably wasn't as sparkling as we might remember. Friends, we are Trinity right now, and that is so much better than anything we have ever had or anything we will ever have, because it is here. So let's not show favoritism. Let's not judge the path that others are on. Let's not judge the path that we ourselves are on. Let us talk and behave as those who are judged by freedom, to follow the greatest commandment, to love one another without ceasing. Friends, mercy triumphs over judgment every single time, and that is the good news that will sustain us forever. Amen.